what Zelensky said to Engel is what you said to me. I'm trying to think of how many months ago on our air, where you said this war can't be done 6 weeks in 6 weeks installments at a time. Everybody's got to commit the weaponry that they are prepared to commit, and let's see what happens. So this Ukrainian counteroffensive is a proof of concept, right? It's okay, we gave them a lot of weapons. Can they do something differently with those weapons than they could before we gave the weapons to them?
I think that's true to a certain extent. We shouldn't overstate what we actually provided him in total. It's actually not as much as you would think, and it's all kind of in thin slices, coming in relatively late. Wouldn't it be fantastic if Ukraine had those F-16s earlier, or those Bradleys or tanks earlier in the war, where they would have them, all the kinks worked out, have had a chance to kind of test their formations, integrate all these capabilities, and he's exactly right. This war kind of being supported in piecemeal has extended it. But in fact, he's also right that Ukraine is going to be successful. The pace of that success is tied directly to the kind of foreign aid it gets in return. But I think this is likely to be we're off to a slow start with some fairly significant setbacks. The Russians are taking losses, Ukrainians are making gains, but we're off to a start 2 weeks into a months-long campaign.
I want to ask you about something that Zelensky said to me on the anniversary of the war that he now has reiterated to Richard Engel about why America needs to stay behind Ukraine on this one. Listen to the conversation.
Is any candidate or senator who thinks it costs too much for the United States to support Ukraine, is he ready to go to war, to fight, to send his kids? Are they ready to die? Because anyway, they will have to do this if NATO gets involved. And anyway, if Ukraine would lose, if Russia would occupy Ukraine, Russia will continue going towards Baltic countries, Poland, etc. They will start war with one of the NATO countries. And at this moment, the United States will have to choose the collapse of NATO or go to war.
It's pretty stark. He's saying that if Russia wins Ukraine, Russia doesn't stop in Ukraine. Russia goes beyond Ukraine. Going beyond Ukraine, generally speaking, means going to a NATO country. Once you attack a NATO country, all NATO countries are now involved in a war.
I think that's true to a certain extent. I think some people might argue that that's still far-fetched, that Putin has no appetite to war with NATO. I think it's a possibility mainly from this idea of a slippery slope that Putin, emboldened with success in Ukraine, will look to snap up Moldova, emboldened with success there, will consolidate and potentially go after the Baltics. So we might very well get there. I think there's an easier calculation up front on why we should support Ukraine, and it is simply that we have been investing years and billions of dollars in resources in facing down the Russian challenge, the Russian conventional threat, planning for the day that we might have to face them. And Ukraine, for the deepest of discounts, is destroying the Russian conventional military. What a bargain that is for U.S. national security, that we don't have to contend with the possibility of Russia emboldened and going to war with NATO if Ukraine wins. So we should do everything we can to realize our own greater security, the security of the Euro-Atlantic Alliance, by making these kinds of tiny investments, in the big scheme of things, compared to what the annual defense budget is, to help Ukraine succeed and avoid NATO and U.S. involvement in the future war with Russia.